Welcome back, and today we are going to discuss about Iran's strategic and geopolitical stand, and where does it stand geopolitically, how the war is affected by Iran, and yeah, where does Iran stand? Starting with Iran's geography. Firstly, Iran is primarily located in Middle East of Asia, and Middle East part of Asia, making it spot of trades. It is also secured by Western Zagros Mountain, Alboraz Mountain, Southern Zagros Mountain. Talking about ethnic groups, there are few major ethnic groups such as Azari, Mandarani, Arab, Persian, Kurd, Lur, and Baloch. Linguistically, Farsi, which are languages used in there. Few advantages of economy: huge hydrocarbon reserve, fourth largest oil reserve, accessibility and mobility in and Gulf and Persian Gulf. Deep summary: Iran's geography attracted Western influence also due to oil reserve. Iran was the very first Middle Eastern nation to initialize toward nationalizing oil reserve. So the major reason why Iran got enmity with Western influence is the oil reserve. It was the very first reason why Iran got into a clash with Western ideology. So in 1950s, Iran was first Middle Eastern country to nationalize their oil. Due to which many Western influence, very Western companies which did produce oil were removed from Iran, and due to which it created a negative impact. So yeah, this was the first reason why countries like America, Britain got against Iran. So let's move on. These were some basic of the information which you needed to know. Talking about Iran's history, Iraq was one of the enemy of Iran historically. So during regime of Saddam Hussein, Iraq launched war on Iran, which lasted 8 years. So Iraq. And why this war happened, and why Iraq was enemy of Iran. And why this war happened. So let us discuss deeply. Because in 1979, Ayatollah Khomeini, he was the guy who took leadership of Iran, weaponizing the identity, and he wanted that ideology to flow into Middle East. So yeah, there were several protests in and Saudi by Shia community, which was staged by Iran. Sorry. So talking about 1980, the war. The war was mentioned as border dispute. Irani extremist ideology was been floating in Iran, and that Saddam Hussein at that time was very fearful that Shia majority in Iraq would turn against him. But the main cause was the in Iraq Shia was in majority, and there was rule of Sunni, and Saddam's inner circle was almost exclusively Sunni Muslim. There were multiple executives, multiple staff which were on higher posts uh, in in Saddam's inner circle, which were exclusively Sunni Muslim. So the second reason is Iranian threat. After 1979 Iranian Revolution, Ayatollah Khomeini called Islamic Revolution across the region. After 1979 Iranian Revolution, Ayatollah Khomeini was that time a leader of Iran, called the Islamic Revolution across the region, means across the Middle East. The He wanted that Islamic ideology to flow across the Middle East, and for that he was targeting Iran. Khomeini specifically targeted Iraq, urging Shias to overthrow Saddam's Ba'athist government. So yeah, these were three of the major reasons. First is Shia majority and Sunni rule. As you may know, Saddam Hussein's inner circle was fully exclusively Sunni Muslim. Iranian threat after 1979. Ayatollah Khomeini have moved on his ideology and passing it through Middle Eastern states and nations. And third was he was specifically targeting Iraq. The Khomeini was specifically targeting Iran to urging Shias to overthrow Saddam's government. So basically, these were three reasons, and this war was staged as border dispute, which was later been discovered. Iraq was poured with funding. So when at the time of war, Iraq was very much poured with funding against Iran from Gulf countries like Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, and UAE, who poured $40 billion in war at that time. And later, it is also known as at this time, Israel helped Iran. Yeah, it may sound as a paradox, but Israel actually helped Iran with small arms and small supplies of weaponries, armor, and etc. Because at that time, Iraq was bigger threat to Israel rather than of Iran. So for that, Israel was quietly uh, providing Iran with supplies of weapons and arms. So there are a few reasons why Gulf funded Iraq. So first is Saddam as a shield. So Gulf to fight against Iran, it used Saddam Hussein and Iraq as shield. So it buffered Gulf viewed secular buffer zone. Iraq as secular buffer zone. So Gulf was protecting. So the Gulf viewed Iran as secular buffer zone, protecting Arabian Peninsula from Iranian expansion. So basically, Gulf was playing double. So basically, Gulf was using Iraq as proxy to fight against Iran. So second reason is containing Shia majority. States like Bahrain, Saudi Arabia feared that if Iranian victory would embolden their own marginalized Shia population. So basically, the Shia majority states like Saudi Arabia, Bahrain, if the Iranian won the war, this ideology of Iran would flow in Saudi Arabia and Bahrain, which would create unrest between these nations. So the war on this this war almost changed perspective and strategy of Iran. This Iran strategy of forefront war or border war wasn't the so Iran changed its strategy from doing war. So Iran changed their perspective of war, like they were like the war which happens between the communities, like Iran and Iraq. That happened between both countries. It doesn't included any proxy, but Iran after this war understood that it cannot win the traditional war. It have to use the another strategy. That's why in today lab Iran uses Lebanon as a proxy to attack Israel. So, the war which happened in 1980s, it it lasted 8 years, and it have many means Iran learned many concepts which Iran learned many concepts which may further help them and take a standpoint which they are in today. So moving on further, we have Iran's strategy: militias, regional extremists, religious extremists, political funding. These are three core factors which Iran uses today for the proxy war. So I would give the very best example of this in further explanation, but let's understand few points. These Iran provided funding, training, ideology in Hezbollah, which caused Hezbollah to become more powerful than government itself in Lebanon. So few people may know that Lebanon army is smaller than Hezbollah army. Hezbollah has been sufficient with many multiple arms, multiple weapons, missiles, multiple tanks, and etc. Much more armory is there with Hezbollah, the organization, and half of the seats in parliament is been captured or is been ruled by Hezbollah. So due to this, Iran have made sure that it has access to Mediterranean Sea as well as Lebanon, as well as the government of Lebanon, as well as the decisions they make in Lebanon. So that time they thought of it like if someday Israel and Iran got into dispute, got into battle, got into clashes, Iran might use this Hezbollah, the Lebanon, as launchpad of attack on Israel. So basically, and diplomatically, it would stand on safer side rather than framing itself as Lebanon did, rather than uh, framing it as Lebanon attacked Israel, nor like Iran attacked Israel. So this was the strategy. Iran always fights with a proxy. It doesn't make their hands dirty in this bullshit. So moving further, Iran's westward corridor. This is very major and very important topic to understand. So basically, what does Western Iran's westward corridor stands for? So there are countries: Iran, Iraq, Syria, and Lebanon. So these countries. So if Iran wants to supply any armor, any training, anything to Lebanon, to Hezbollah, it might it have to go from this route, like Iran roadways through. Like suppose Iran wants to send weapons to Lebanon, to Hezbollah, how would it send? So firstly, the anything, any armor, any weapon Iran want to send to Lebanon, it would send like Iran to Iraq, after Iraq then Syria, after Syria then Lebanon. And how it works, let me show you. Why Iran it was passing on ideology heavily to Iraq, to Syria, because it has to develop the Hezbollah in Lebanon. And to develop it, it have to provide it with funding, it have to provide it with weapons, it have to provide it with ammunitions. And how would it pass on? Because airways and waterways can be traced, you know, can be tracked, and almost it is very risky. So this roadway which passes through state to state, another state, like Iran to Iraq, to Syria, to Lebanon, it is much safer. And also Iran Iran can do it secretly, so no one understands, no one ever knows. So that was Iran's strategy. So yeah, and why Lebanon? Why it choose Lebanon? The one of the key reason to choose Lebanon is that Lebanon is situated in near Mediterranean Sea or beside Mediterranean Sea, which gives access to Iran to access Mediterranean Sea as well. So if Iran someday have to launch attack on Middle East or have to launch attack or have to gain influence in Middle East, it has Lebanon as its proxy. So Lebanon, why it provides ammunition? It's not only for Israel; it is also for Middle East. So if someday clashes happen between Iran and Middle East, Lebanon, through its proxy Lebanon, it can generate attacks anywhere in Middle East. So moving further, we have one of the best examples where Iran used its proxy war strategy, so which is Yemen. So at that time there was Jihadi Shia organization which took control over capital of Sana'a. Iran provided Sana'a with missiles, with funding as well as with weapons. So yeah, that time, so there was a group called Jihadi Shia organization which took control over Yemen, over the capital of Sana'a. That time, Iran provided this Jihadi Shia organization with missiles, with funding, as well as training, weapons, etc., ammunitions. The Iran government that time helped Yemen, helped Yemen government to restore the legitimate and government in Yemen. They thought, the Saudi government thought this war could last for a few weeks, but due to the training which Iran provided, due to the weaponries, due to multiple other factors, due to which Iran provided to this Jihadi Shia organization, this war lasted for 7 years. This was the one of the major cues which Iran got, that proxy war. They could easily target any state, any nation at much cheaper or much less risk and much more reward. So basically, their resources are being secured. They are like they are not involved directly into war, but their ideology, their uh, but their core work which they have to do, like they never had to, like Iran never wanted to do the war. They just wanted to win the war. They just wanted to pass on that ideology. So direct war, which have costed much more to them, they, I mean, so due to which, so due to this factor, the proxy war factor, the Iran got a strong, I mean, so, due to this Yemen thing, Iran got one thing for sure, that strategy of proxy war, the proxy war to fight in any situation, with any nation, is the best strategy they have developed. Because direct war they can't afford. So, nextly, Iran put its psychological impact on Gulf as Iran fought through proxy Yemen, and this was the one of the I mean to say one of the best historical uh, key one of the historical milestone where one country fought with proxy and which lasted for 7 years around. And yeah, a Yemen rebel group which got into war and lasted for 7 years. Isn't it fascinating? So yeah. So reason number two is strategic geography of Iran. So Iran have one of the best. I mean to say one of the best geography. Like Iran's control over Strait of Hormuz. The one of the major factor which made whole Middle East fears of is that if Iran suppose anytime ever closes the Strait of Hormuz, closes the strait, and yeah, so like states like UAE, Saudi, Kuwait, there's almost 70 to 80% trade, major economy depends on oil transport, shipping, and etc. things. So if anytime Iran controls Strait of Hormuz and closes the Strait of Hormuz, These countries like UAE, Saudi, Kuwait, they are almost 70% economy would go to ruin. And another factor is Iran have constantly mobilized ship, submarines, mines over Hormuz. So yeah, as I told you, Iran always kept its from 1980s. It always prepared for this particular moment. It have always it have militarized the Strait of Hormuz. It have kept all its weaponry, armor, like major of it, made ports and etc. things near the Strait of Hormuz. So if anything happens in future, it can quickly, readily be prepared for the war, be prepared for the next circumstances. So these are the few key factors which you need to understand. And yeah.